Just after dawn, on the 1st of December, 1948, a couple walked down to a beach near Adelaide, Australia, and noticed a man slumped against the seawall. He was dressed in a good suit, polished shoes, legs crossed at the ankles, as if he'd sat down to watch the water. A half-smoked cigarette rested against his collar. They thought he was asleep. He wasn't. And when the police came and searched his pockets, they found tickets, chewing gum, cigarettes, matches. What they did not find was a name. No wallet, no papers, nothing. Even the labels of his clothes had been cut away. For 74 years, no one on earth could say who he was. Every name has a record. Some records were buried for a reason. This one was buried with the name itself. Adelaide, South Australia, 1948. The war was 3 years finished. The Cold War was just beginning, and on the quiet suburban sand of Somerton Beach, the body of a well-dressed man was about to become the strangest case in the country's history. Start with what the examiners found, because every detail matters. The man was about 45 years old, athletic, in exceptional physical condition, with the strong, high calf muscles of a dancer or a runner. His hands showed no manual labor. His teeth showed no dental records that matched any known person. He had eaten a pasty a few hours before he died. And here's the first wrong note. The autopsy found his organs deeply congested, consistent, the pathologist believed, with poison. But every test they ran came back clean. No poison was ever found. Not then, not since. The second wrong note, the labels. Someone, either the man himself or someone else, had carefully removed every identifying tag from his clothing. In January, investigators traced his path backward to Adelaide railway station, where a brown suitcase had been checked into the cloakroom the morning before his death, and never collected. Inside, clothes with the labels removed. Again, a few items stenciled with the name T. Keene, which led nowhere, a coat stitched in a style used only in America, and a small kit of tools, a sharpened knife, scissors, a stenciling brush, the kind of kit some noted a ship's officer might carry, or an instrument maker, a man with no name, no past, and a suitcase that had been deliberately made silent. That was where the case sat, until someone looked closer at his trousers. Months after the body was found, a re-examination turned up something everyone had missed. Sewn into the waistband of his trousers was a small hidden pocket, and rolled up tightly inside it, a scrap of paper torn from a book. Printed on it, 2 words, Tamám Shud. It's Persian. It means, it is ended. They are the final words of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a book of poetry about living without regret, because life is short and there is nothing after. Police published the scrap, and something extraordinary happened. A local man came forward. Around the time of the death, someone had tossed a copy of the Rubaiyat, the exact edition, into the back seat of his unlocked car, parked a short walk from Somerton Beach. Its final page was torn. The tear matched the scrap. This was the dead man's book, and someone had thrown it away. Under light, on the back cover, investigators found indentations. The ghost of writing pressed through from a missing page, a telephone number, and 5 lines of capital letters that have never been read by anyone. Naval intelligence looked at it. Professional cryptographers looked at it. 70 years of amateurs have looked at it. The best answer anyone has. It is probably not a cipher at all, but the first letters of words, a sentence only the writer could reconstruct. A message with exactly one intended reader. And the phone number, it belonged to a nurse, a young woman living 400 meters from where the man died. She is the human center of this case, and we'll treat her carefully because she never asked to be in it. When police interviewed her, she denied knowing the dead man. She asked that her name be kept out of the papers, and for half a century it was. Researchers knew her only as Justine. But two details refused to lie down. First, during the war, she'd given a copy of the Rubaiyat, the same book, to an army officer she knew. When police tracked that officer down, he was alive and still had his copy. A dead end that somehow made the coincidence stranger. Second, when investigators later showed her the plaster cast of the dead man's face, the man who made the cast said she was staggered by it, that she looked away and would not look back. She said nothing more. She never did. She died in 2007, and whatever she knew, she took with her. You can see why the spy theory grew. It was 1948. The atomic age was months old. Australia's secret rocket range at Woomera was being built a few hundred miles away. A fit, unidentifiable man, poisoned by something no lab could find, carrying a code with every label cut from his clothes. For decades, that was the favorite answer. This was somebody's agent, and somebody cleaned up after him. But there was always a quieter reading. The book the scrap was torn from is not a spy's manual. It's a poem about accepting death. It is ended, folded small and hidden next to the skin in a pocket no one would ever find by accident. Not a message to the world, a message to himself. And then, after 74 years, the case did something almost no case this old ever does. It gave up a name. In 2022, a professor named Derek Abbott, who had spent 15 years on this mystery, and the genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick extracted DNA from hairs trapped in that plaster cast. They built a family tree with it, 4,000 names, and at the end of one branch, Carl Webb, born 1905, Melbourne, an electrical engineer and instrument maker, a quiet man, fond of poetry, a man whose marriage had collapsed, and whose estranged wife had moved to South Australia. He had told no one where he was going. So now I want to know what you think. Was Carl Webb a heartbroken man who wrote himself a farewell in code and ended it by the sea? Was he something else? Something the removed labels and the unfindable poison still hide? In the 5 lines, a love letter, a suicide note, or a report. Tell me in the comments. I read them. Here's what we're left with, and why this case belongs in the record. The name took 74 years, the largest genetic genealogy hunt of its kind, and it is still formally unconfirmed by the police, whose own forensic review goes on. But even if the name is settled, listen to what is not. We do not know what killed him. The poison, if it was poison, has never been identified to this day. We do not know why every label was removed. We do not know what 5 lines of letters meant, or who they were for. And we do not know why he came to that beach, of all beaches, 400 meters from a woman who owned the same strange Persian book of poetry, and who could not look at his face. We spent 3/4 of a century asking who he was. We finally got an answer. And it turned out that was never really the question. The scrap in his pocket said it is ended, but the poison has no name, the code has no key, and the record of Carl Webb's last day is still sealed, not in an archive, but in the dark, where he left it. It is ended, except it isn't. That's where the record ends. But it's not the only one. If you want to be here when the next one opens, subscribe and turn on notifications, so you'll know the moment it does. A new account goes up every couple of weeks. And if this case got under your skin, leave a like. It's a small thing, but it's how these stories reach the next person who can't let them go. I'll see you at the next account.